Ladies and gents, dimes and fellas, step right up and gather around because the broadcast is on air. It's your old pal behind the mic, back again for another evening of tales, thrills, and perhaps a few chills that'll tingle the spine and tickle the imagination. Now, I do hope you're all sitting comfy like with a warm cuppa or a stiff drink. Because tonight we're dusting off the record books and flipping through pages of mystery, menace, and maybe even a little madness. So tip your hats, turn down the lights, and lend me your ears, for the airwaves are alive, and it's time to begin tonight's program. Let the stories roll. Now, tonight we are going to continue on with our what should I call it? Our adventures in the SCP, the world of SCP. Now, it has been a hot minute since I have broadcasted on the airways, mostly just due to being a little under the weather, I guess is how you put it. But we are back, and we are going to get right into it without any further ado. We are going to start off with SCP-011. Wait, making sure. Yep. No, SCP-10. My bad. I went too far ahead. Yes, SCP-10. I was making sure, everyone. Alright, so SCP-10. I don't know much about this one. There's a lot of SCPs I have found that I do not know anything about, and most of them are very low on the scale of knowledge for me. Mostly because they are not known to the world. I have not seen anything in the newspapers about them, or anything along the lines of that sort. But this one is called The Statue That Watches. Now, again, this one reminds me a lot, just by the name, it reminds me of those weeping angels from the old television show. Doctor Who. There we are. That's the name I was trying to think. Give me a break, everybody. Alright, so let's jump right into it. I never believed in weird stuff. Not the Foundation, not cryptids, not ghosts, none of it. I'm a historical photographer, or was, and I made quite a living taking high-res images of monuments and memorials for preservation groups. It was decent money and honest work. That's what brought me to Vermont. There's a small cemetery on the edge of Montepeller? Real sleepy place. Trees lining the edges, moss creeping up headstones. In the very center, a statue of a Civil War soldier standing tall with a rifle in its hands. He's old. Been there since the 1800s. And weather-worn but sturdy. Looked like he didn't move a day since he was placed. I arrived around 6:30 a.m. to catch the fog for some good atmospheric shots. The statue was in its usual pose, chin tilted forward, rifle pointed down, hands clasped over the barrel. I took a few photos, logged notes, and left just before noon. When I returned the next morning for another round of photos, something was off. The statue's rifle was no longer pointed straight down. It was now slightly angled. I figured I must have misremembered. Maybe I was tired. Or maybe the angle of my shots just made it look different. But then I noticed the dirt. There were footprints. Small ones, human-sized. Just a few paces in front of the statue, leading to and from the base, like someone had walked up to it and stood there. Then vanished. That night, I reviewed my images side by side. Day 1, rifle down. Day 2, rifle slightly up. I zoomed in, and that's when I noticed something. The eyes. They looked carved into the first day's photo, blank and dead, like any statue. In the second day's photo, they had depth, shadow, gleam. No one could have sculpted that difference in one day. No one. On the third day I arrived earlier, I brought coffee and stayed in my car across the street watching as the fog rolled in through the graveyard, and that's when I heard it. A faint click, like shifting chains or boots on stone. I crept out of the car with my camera ready. The statue's head turned, just an inch, a slight movement. I froze. The rifle rose. Just a hair. And then it stopped. It was like guarding something. Watching. Listening. I wasn't brave enough to get closer. I backed up, hands shaking. Got in my car and drove fast. That night, I got a call from an unknown number. A low, old rasp into my voicemail. You shouldn't be watching what's watching you. In silence. I tried to report it. Cops laughed. Locals told me I must have seen a caretaker cleaning the statue. But I went back one final time, not to photograph, to see if it was real. When I arrived, I saw something horrifying. The statue's rifle was now raised, pointed outward, like a soldier guarding a perimeter. And in front of it, a fresh grave. No name, just a simple marker. Let them rest. And the soil was wet, like it had just been filled. I don't go to graveyards anymore. I don't take photographs. I burned every image from the trip. I still get calls, and sometimes I swear I hear boots outside my door at night, waiting. Now, again, that does sound a lot like those weeping angels from the old telly show, Doctor Who, but very mild in what you want to say, very mild in activity. It's not doing the whole freeze when it's seen kind of thing. Not like how they did that. But still interesting. So I give it. Now, on to SCP-12. The music that bled is what it's called now. Once again, one of the fewer SCPs I'd never heard about, don't know anything about, and we'll see if anybody else knows about it. If any of y'all out there on the airways knows about it, you'll let me know. I was hired last winter to help catalog the contents of an abandoned European chapel set for restoration. I'm a freelance historian, mostly on artifacts and music manuscripts. The place was tucked into the side of a mountain near the Italian-Swiss border. All snow and silence. The chapel hadn't been touched in decades. Whoa, where did that yawn come from? Before I continue, I do want to say that freelance historians have an interesting job, in my opinion, because they get to go to a lot of places and try to, like I said, catalog a lot of contents from abandoned places around the world. And it's always been a fascination of, what have they found over the years? Have they found something that nobody wants to know? Have they hidden stuff away? But we'll never know. They're probably hiding some stuff that we will ever see. There were rumors, of course, stories about monks who had vanished, workers going mad, but none of that meant anything to me. I had my equipment, a week's supply of food, and permission to document anything of historical value. I should have walked away the moment I found the sheet music. It was hidden behind an altar, wrapped in rotting cloth stained dark red. I thought it was blood at first, but when I unwrapped it, the smell hit me. It was iron and rot, like something old and dead. Still, I was curious. I always am. That's what gets people like me in trouble. I completely agree with that. Curiosity kills the cat. That phrase has existed for a reason, and this is a prime example of said reasoning. The sheet was ancient parchment, and across it were musical notations written in a thick, dark red ink. But not just notes. Scratches. Like the composer had carved the score into the paper with something sharp and angry. The title was smeared and nearly unreadable, while I made out the Latin, On Vitis Latium. Roughly, the death of spring. And and I have probably completely pronounced that wrong. I don't know Latin. Don't think I ever will understand it. I felt a pressure in my ears just reading the notes. Something like static, or a low hum in the back of my mind. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing it. Music. Slow, jarring notes. Like a broken music box being wound too tight. Over and over. Discordant, unfinished, as if the melody desperately wanted to resolve, but couldn't find its end. When I opened my notebook to review my earlier findings, I found new markings. My own handwriting, I had copied some of the score. I didn't remember doing it. But there it was. My pen, my notion, my margins, all trying to finish the piece. The next day I tried to lock the original sheet in its safe. Sealed and bolted. By the evening, it was on my desk again. Open, exposed, bleeding. Yes, bleeding. Thick red fluid had soaked through the parchment and pooled on the wood. I touched it. It was warm. And that's when I saw the walls, covered in musical notations. I had written hundreds of staves in my sleep. On the walls, the floor, even the mirror. All trying to finish the song. I tried to leave, packed my bag, slammed the chapel doors shut, but every road, every path, every route I took brought me back to the same chapel. It was like the mountain had closed around it. I stopped eating. My fingertips were stained red from ink. I never fought. I found knives in strange places. My hands were wrapped in gauze. I don't remember cutting myself. I don't remember writing. But the piece was almost done. The more I bled, the closer it got. Then I saw him. A figure. Just once. In the pews. Dressed in rags, hunched over, humming. He had no eyes, no mouth. There was dried blood where his face had been. And he was conducting. Slowly to the tempo I'd been hearing in my head for days. I screamed. I tore the parchment apart and I burned it. Well, I thought it did. Because when I woke up the next day, it was whole again. Sitting on the altar, waiting. I was found 3 days later by a rescue team looking for another hiker. They said I was kneeling in front of the altar, humming and scrubbing music with a sharpened piece of bone. They tried to take the sheet. They're all dead now. I survived, but I hear it still. Every night, a melody just out of reach, begging me to finish it. Now, my thoughts on this, that sounds just like everyday music for people out there that have either listened to a song that had become a very catchy tone in their ears, which I have dealt with for the past couple of days, where I cannot get rid of a song that has been playing over and over in my head no matter how many tries or times I have changed tunes or played a random song just to get it out, but it still plays in my head. So that's what it sounds like to me. It may sound like that to you as well, but oh well. So, on to the next one. So, SCP-13. I almost lost my place. This one is called the Blue Lady. Once again, an SCP I'd never heard about. Actually, maybe I have in the past. But, we'll see. I don't remember it. The name does not click. But we will see as we start to read. I'll be honest. I used to be a heavy smoker. I quit 3 years ago, but sometimes I still get the itch. That tight feeling in your chest, that hollow buzz at the back of your head that whispers, just one more. That's what got me into this whole mess. I was walking home late one night, past an old strip mall that had long since shut down. There was a boarded up convenience store there, but the lights inside were on. I Swear on my life, it was open, and inside, behind the grimy counter, was a short old man with yellow eyes and stitched up jaw. He didn't speak, just nodded at me like he was expecting me. That should have been enough to send me running, but instead I asked if he sold cigarettes. He reached under the blue counter and slid out a blue tin. Polished. Cold to the touch. I didn't see a brand name, just an old-fashioned sticker of a woman in a Victorian dress. Her face was pale and smiling. Her lips painted the same color as the tin. Blue lady, he croaked. I paid in cash, didn't ask how much, I just wanted to smoke. Back at home, I opened the tin. The cigarettes inside were perfectly rolled, each one with a tiny blue line down the side. They smelled faintly of perfume. Old, powdery perfume. And something like lavender rotting in damp earth. Still, I lit one. And that's when I saw her. She appeared in the reflection of my TV screen. A woman in a dark blue dress standing behind me in the doorway. I spun around, no one there. Took another drag. This time I saw her in the mirror, smiling gently. Head tilted like she was listening to something. Her eyes were wrong, too pale, like they were clouded over. Blind? Yeah, I knew she was looking at me. Every time I smoked a blue lady, she got clearer. Closer. By the fifth cigarette, she was sitting across from me in the kitchen. Still smiling. She didn't blink. Not once. I tried throwing them out. The 10, the remaining cigarettes. I buried them in the dumpster behind the building. Next morning, they were on my nightstand again. By then, things had already started to change. I started coughing up blue phlegm. My skin got cold and clammy. My veins turning slightly darker, like ink was leaking beneath them. And I started forgetting things. Simple stuff at first. Name, addresses. Then the whole days would disappear. I'd find myself standing outside in the rain with no memory of how I got there. One night I caught myself talking to her. I don't remember what I said, but I woke up in a chair facing the living room mirror smiling. There were cigarette burns on my arms. 13 of them. One for each blue lady in the tin. I haven't smoked in days, but I can taste her on my tongue. I can hear her humming when the house is quiet. I see her face in the corner of my eye, and when I close my eyes, she's behind me. Some nights I wake up gasping, my hands twitching like I've been trying to write something in the air. A name, maybe. The weirdest part? Sometimes when I speak, I hear her voice instead of mine. Now, I'm not big on smoking, but I really hope that is not a thing, because if it is, I will malfunction. I'm having a malfunction. My bad. That is usually unexpected. Wait, nope. I don't think anybody. Did anybody actually hear that though? No, that's no. Chat, I'm making sure with the other members of the studio to try to find out if that was actually an issue or not. So far, no. That was just one issue right there. All right. Okay. Let me see. So we're on. What was I saying about that? The blue lady, yes. Let me remember for a second. The blue lady. I would just say probably don't smoke. If that's what's going to happen, then just don't do it. It just sounds dangerous. Anyways, on to the last SCP of tonight's broadcast. Hopefully we don't have any more issues and no more little goblins or ghosts in my controls. Don't need any more of that. Anyways, SCP-14, the Concrete Man. That? Concrete Man. That almost sounds like another SCP that I think we've read. No, we haven't read about him yet, I don't think. I think I have him ready, though. Anyways, on to it. I don't usually talk about my old job, and honestly, I signed enough NDAs to make a lawyer blush. But lately, I keep dreaming of him again. In 2017, I was hired as an independent contractor to assist in the renovation and upkeep of a classified government facility. They never used the word SCP around me, but I saw it on the paperwork, and on the doors, and on the strange color-coded zones with the warnings like biohazard, and cognitohazard, or temporal risk. Keep moving. They told me my job would be simple routine maintenance of one room and its permanent occupant. That room was cell 014. The man inside never moved. He looked about 70, maybe 80 years old, thin, pale, and sitting in an iron chair in the exact center of the concrete walled cell. He wore an old-style wool vest, dress slacks, and polished shoes that never collected dust, no restraints, no guards. Now that sounds like he has style. His eyes were always open, gray blue, cloudy, but somehow alert. He blinked every now and then, and if you made noise, he'd look in your direction. Sometimes smiled too. I was never told to touch him, never speak to him, and never to enter the room unless absolutely necessary. Instead, there was a sealed airlock chamber I had to clean, vents, camera housing, lights, etc. Every task was monitored, nothing out of the ordinary for months. Until one week I got curious. The cameras had gone out inside his room. The maintenance tech was sick, and they sent me in with an override key card. They said he wouldn't move. Well, couldn't. Since 1915, when he apparently claimed to have been cursed with immortality by a wandering monk. Yeah, being cursed by a wandering monk. I wonder what you did to make him mad to have to curse you like that. I assumed it was another psychological anomaly like the others. Still, I felt it. The air changed the moment I stepped inside. Heavy and stagnant, like walking to a tomb that had been waiting for you. He turned his eyes to me immediately. The cameras were behind him, mounted on the wall. I had to get within 6 feet. That's when I heard it. Not out loud, but in my head. How old are you, son? I looked around, nothing. Just him. Time is a lake, not a line. Sit with me. My legs locked. My knees felt like they'd freeze in place. I fought it, shook myself out of it, and bolted for the airlock. The feedback came back on the moment I left. From that day forward, I started to change. My joints ached constantly. My skin dried out. My hair turned gray in less than a month. They ran tests, no disease, no exposure. I was only 34. One of the doctors pulled me aside and asked if I entered cell 014. I lied. He didn't push, just gave me a look like he already knew. A week later, I passed the room again during my rounds. The door was ajar, and the man was standing, looking into the hallway. Then he sat back down, and the door slammed shut behind me on its own. They removed me from the assignment and sent me home with a generous payout and a sealed letter, "Do not return." Now 6 years later, I wake up every morning sitting upright in a chair in my living room. I never remember going there. I feel heavier every day, slower, my fingernails have stopped growing, so has my hair. I think he gave me something. Or took something from me. I don't age anymore, but I don't live either. I just wait. Like him. And that sounds like one of those curses that goes from one person to the other, to another, before it actually just becomes a loop all the way around to the last person to ever get that. So that sounds haunting on its own, just because of a curse that seems to just spread. But yeah, that's all my thoughts on that. There's really nothing else to these ones. I don't really know enough about these ones to actually have a lot of opinions on. I find them all quite interesting because of just, you know, them being very, like, underrated. There we go. Underrated SCPs I've never actually heard about or seen anywhere else. But that's going to be it for tonight. And just like that, the clock strikes closing time. The stories have been told, their airways grow quiet, and the veil drops once more. But remember, cats and kittens, the strangest don't sleep, and just waits for nightfall. We'll be back soon, same smoke-filled studio, same silver-tongued tales, but until then, keep your eyes wide, your mind open, and your radio close. This has been your guide to the eerie, signing off.
Today, just 7. You want to say goodbye?